Greetings, everything reader friends. So today we are reviewing Haunted by Chuck Palahniuk. So I gave this book 1 out of 5 stars because I hated it so much. Not get into this book. I didn't find it that interesting. The premise was okay, and writing was bad. The short stories were not so great. The synopsis is that a group of writers who answered an ad go on what is supposed to be a writer's retreat where they will create their masterpiece so they can become famous writers or whatever, and it's run by this man named Mr. Whittier and his assistant Mrs. Clark. So they get on the bus to go to their magical writer's retreat, and it turns out it's in this old abandoned theater. Okay, so it's in an old abandoned theater, and our story takes off from there. So now the reasons that I did not like this book. Number one, why I did not like this book is you cannot like any of the characters. You are set up to hate the characters. It's like Palahniuk was so desperate that he made these the darkest parts of humanity, these people. There's no one you can root for because they're self-sabotaging, they're conniving, they're pesky and annoying and conceited, and you can't like any of them. So it's really, you can't have a favorite character. So it's hard to like any of the people that you're reading about because you're basically set up to hate them from the first chapter of the book. The book definitely would have been better without the main plot, I have to say. Some of the short stories were okay. Like, for example, Guts by St. Gutfrey, product placement by, what's his face? Chef Assassin, The Nightmare Box by Mrs. Clark, and Green Room by Miss America. They were good. The others, not so much. I heard a story that apparently Palahniuk wanted to publish this as a collection of short stories, but the publisher said they wouldn't publish it like that, so he made it a novel in order to get it published. So I have to give him his props that he turned a collection of unrelated short stories into a novel. End product is just not that great. So the poems, okay, they are not that great, and they rarely provide you with anything about the character, except in the case of St. Gutfrey, Mrs. Clark's first short story, and Miss America. All the other ones, they barely tell you anything about the character. Oh, and Chef Assassin. It's like they're filler. It feels like they're taking place for something that could have been better, or had the potential to be better. Majority of the stories don't feel finished. They feel incompleted rather, because they don't really, some of them end well. Like The Nightmare Box was my favorite story, and I thought that was a great story because it was creepy, it had all the aspects of everything you want in a horror story, and I thought that was really good. And then you have other stories that were just really, I don't even know like where they came from, what was the point of them. Another thing that I probably should have mentioned in the beginning is there are way too many characters. There's like 1 million characters you have to keep track of. In just the first chapter, there is 19 characters mentioned that you have to keep track of throughout the book. It's very confusing and convoluted. The short stories are so disconnected from the main plot. They're totally detached, and it feels like they're interruptions. The short stories would have been better as just a collection of short stories as opposed to what Palahniuk tried to do to get it published. The novel, the same thing with the novel. The novel idea would have been better had they not had the poems and the short stories, because every time something interesting starts happening in the main plot of the novel, you have a short story happening. They upset the story. Again, with the characters are so self-sabotaging and conceited about their hunt for fame and the money that they're going to have once they make a movie of their whole horrible experience in this abandoned theater with Mr. Whittier. They're so obsessed with this idea. It becomes irritating so early on in the book that it makes you want to stop reading. like immediately, you know, but you want to find out what happens because you want to find out if these characters actually develop or not, which they don't. They constantly talk about getting out, but they gotta have one more thing happen to them, one more bad thing happen to them before they, you know, can escape. Like, you're gonna be dead before you leave. You're gonna be leaving in a body bag by the time that you're ready to go. Constant self-sabotage, self-mutilation becomes redundant, okay? The gross parts are left in to shock you, and they don't after a while. Because they, you know, Guts shocks you because it's like, it's the second story in the novel. So Guts shocks you because you're like, that's really disgusting. And then, you know, you get a break for a while, and then they start, you know, hacking off limbs and appendages and things, and it gets really gross. And that's just there to keep you interested, which it does not accomplish, because it's, you know, it's, the reader knows it's there for shock factor, and it's just fluff. It's not really doing anything for the main storyline, and that's not good writing, you know? It's like you want to actually surprise your readers. You don't want it to become redundant. A good point for this book is that the book has a lot of good quotes. However, this is overshadowed by how bad the book is. Good themes and symbols and things, but they get overshadowed by the fact that the book is just so horrible. This is probably my favorite point. So all of these writers are supposed to be from different backgrounds, and they're all supposed to be writing a masterpiece, yet all their stories sound in the same voice. All of them. All of them sound like they're written by the same person. That's not good, okay? If you're writing a story about different characters telling stories in the first person, they should not all sound alike. They should have a different voice, they should have a different meter and tempo. The overall connecting plot of this book is as weak as a house of cards. And let me explain why. A lot of things the author does to move the plot along fall through the cracks because he goes from 0 to 60 shocked and depravity meter. On the shocked and depravity meter, rather. These shocking and depraved moments fail to help develop certain themes the author attempts to get across. Violent scenes prevent you from looking away, but they also prevent you from staying too interested in the book. They keep you from staying invested in the novel because all these things are going on, and it's like you don't want to look, but you want to keep. It's easy to put the book down. I've talked to a lot of people about this book, and I know a lot of people stopped after reading Guts, or they got a little bit past 100 pages. You can have gross stuff happen in a book and it'd be fine, but Chuck Palahniuk, what he did was he maxed out how much you could have, you know? He put way too much in a short time span, and he just made the book disgusting. Like with Exodus by Cora Reynolds, so that would be Director Denial's story. Okay, anyway, Director Denial's story was what I was trying to get across, and that was really gross. With the dolls, I mean, nasty. Is there any real character development besides negative character development? I don't think so. I honestly don't think so. The characters all got worse. I mean, they don't develop into better humans, they develop into fame-chasing attention seekers. While this book is hard to look away from, it is also very easy to put down, which is, I know a lot of people who put this book down, and it's very difficult to keep reading, and a lot of symbols and stuff get left behind because of how difficult it is to want to keep reading this novel. And the writing at best is mediocre. For someone of Palahniuk's caliber, I expected a lot more. I found the main plot to be lacking in substance. There's like some aspects of it were a major stretch. Plus, it really dragged at some parts. Like, nothing happened. Interesting happened for a while, and there would be points where it would be forced, and it was really forced. The story didn't immediately grab me, nor did it grab me throughout the novel. I had to force myself to keep reading this book. I actually put it down, and then I was like, no, I probably should finish this. So I had to force myself to get to the end because I thought this book was so boring. The short stories were good sometimes and sometimes not. Some of them were like a desperate attempt at writing. I found the ending to be super predictable because there's little sprinkles of foreshadowing throughout this mess of a book. It was an unsatisfying ending though. I feel like it was a bit forced, and like Palahniuk couldn't come up with anything better, so he kind of just left it. It was not good. It was like, I feel like it was a desperate attempt to end the book, and it was not clear at all. There was a couple of loose ends, and there was some things that just didn't make sense with this ending, so that bothered me. It seems like Palahniuk only added the gross scenes for the sake of shock factor and to fit his other books, because some of his other books have disgusting stuff in them. But I feel like he just did this to be up to the Palahniuk caliber, and he wasn't even up to that, you know, with the writing. So, favorite quote. There was a lot of good quotes in this book, however, I did pick only one for this video. This is my favorite quote. Yes, terrible things happen, but sometimes these terrible things, they save you. I thought that was a really good little nugget of writing. So end notes. I do not recommend this book, especially if you're like under 18 or if you can't handle gross stuff. I don't recommend this book. Even without that, I don't recommend this book. It was mostly uneventful, and when it was eventful, it seemed forced. Finally, my last point is that I don't think this novel accomplished what it set out to accomplish. But again, that's just my opinion. And once again, this is a review of Haunted by Chuck Palahniuk. If you would like, you can like and subscribe for more videos. I do reviews and tag videos and things frequently. If you agree with me, if you don't agree with me, if you have another point that I missed, you can comment down below and I will read your comment and try to respond. If not, my social media links are also there. You can message me on there, or you can comment on there, or tweet me, or Instagram me, or I don't know how to work those things. So, catch you later.